Hello, scrappers, recyclers, and investors interested in the fascinating world of the scrapping and recycling business. It's great to be here. You're on Shark Scrapper Live, where every week we talk about things that are going on with precious metals, industrial metals, the business world that surrounds what we're doing and how it impacts our prices, and trying to figure out what that means for us moving forward. Like to say hello to everybody who has already gotten into the stream here. We've got Scrapping on the Fly, David Philly, Roger at CU Scrapping, Electronic Scrapper, Scrapping Irish, JR Cat, Truck Fan 542. It is great to have you all here. E-Waste Mike, great to have everybody here. We got a lot of folks saying hello and such going on. It's so awesome to have everybody with me today. And we've got a really fun show planned today because we're talking about two of our favorite metals, silver and aluminum. Okay, now there may not be our top favorites, but silver is right up there with a favorite amongst the scrapping community, and aluminum. Everybody deals with aluminum. Very common in our business to deal with aluminum. So, two really good metals to wrap up the year with. And I've got something special planned today because one of the things we're going to do as we're talking about silver is we're going to look at one of the stocks that we talked about in the last couple of weeks and compare what would happen to your investment if you were to spend the same amount of money buying this particular stock, and what would happen if you bought silver instead. So in order to do that, we have to talk about silver pricing and the forecast for silver. So come on, let's dive on and get to that. Now, you all know that I like to use the combination of the APMEX charts and the trading economics charts. John Wright, welcome. Great to have you here. The APMEX, I am not sponsored by APMEX. I have used APMEX along with some of the other sites like JM Bullion and Kitco. They're all reputable. They all do a good job. So, don't think that I'm promoting APMEX here. However, if you know anybody from APMEX and they do want to promote someone, I'd be happy to talk with them. Or we can see that today's spot for silver is 29.64. That's US dollars per ounce. And we had kind of a lot of movement going on early in the week, and then we had this sudden drop. And that's kind of interesting because if we look at this, it was bouncing around a certain value, and then we just dropped off here right at the end of the week. Maybe that's just from going into the holiday season. That's very possible. Let's go over and take a look at at what trading economics has to say about this, because we know that on the trading economics charts we get a very different look of what's happening. So when we get over to trading economics, we can turn on our candlesticks. I really like too that trading economics has this summary up here, and that's a really good sort of just a real capture of what's going on. They say that silver edged higher to 29.50, rebounding from the 3-month low of 29. And there's kind of mixed signals here, right? They're reconsidering hawkishness expected from the Fed, softer than expected PCE prices. There's lowering bond yields that are going on. They talk about supporting precious metals. That's gold. That's what we're really talking about there. And gold is doing pretty well. But there's also this uncertainty that going on with the silver market because the industrial output has kind of underperformed. Overcapacity in China's solar panel industry has driven the photovoltaic companies to self-discipline, which means cut back production. And then there was the devaluation of the yuan in China. So you've got these competing forces that are going on, but the bottom line for silver was that it drove the prices down. So if we look here at the 1 week candlesticks, each candlestick representing 15 minutes of trading, we can see this big drop off from December 27th down here, through the day there. Let's zoom in here towards the end of that period, right? So here we are on the 26th. We're cruising along up here in the 29-ish range, 29.8, 29, and then we start this decline, and this decline carries through to where we are now. A lot of red candlesticks here, and we're down here. Again, we're seeing these sort of bouncing around. Let's open this up just a little bit more so we can see we've got some pretty small candlesticks and some pretty long wicks going on here. So, that could mean that we may see a little bit of recovery going on here, but I wouldn't expect anything too much to happen too quickly here. If we go out a little bit and we look at the month, we see that we dropped from the 32-ish, 32.3-ish range. We had our low down here in the 28.7s, and here we are again back up at the 29.3. How does this look for the longer range perspective, though? Because I always like to look at the longer range with things. It really helps me to wrap my head around what's going on and think long term. Because I'm not a day trader, so I'm not trying to trade silver on the spot, hoping to make a few dollars here and there. I'm a buy and hold kind of silver person. So we see that for the year, we're actually up. So here we are for the year, and you can see that we are up for the year. So not bad. And, if we look at this part of the year, was the peaks were climbing, but now we're seeing some drop. Let's take a look at the full 10-year here. We're on the high end for silver for the last decade, which is really nice. And if we think about the peaks that silver has historically been able to achieve in the 25-year period, we've got this near $50 mark. Excuse me. And if we go back for 50 years, we see that we had two periods where we almost peaked out at $50. So 50 is about the max that we've seen in our lifetime. If we look at our recent track record here, what we can see is that silver has been climbing. The troughs have been climbing here since around 2005-ish. So we get the troughs always seem to be climbing, which is good. And we've just had some, we get these spikes and it falls off and spikes and falls off, but we keep on building the bottom of it, which, suggests that we're not going to see silver drop down to these pre-2005 levels, down here in the lower end, in the 3s and 5s and stuff. So the question becomes, what is silver going to do in the future? And I went in and looked at a number of sources throughout the week that were talking about the forecast for silver. And it was really interesting to me because when I saw the various forecasts that were going on, I could very clearly see some of the bias that was playing out in the people that were generating the forecasts. So, for instance, there's some consensus in the forecasting that says next year in 2025, we should see prices, the highs might get into the 48 to maybe 50. So we may see that maximum spike. But the average is going to be, say, around $36 an ounce. And then in 2026, they're forecasting a high of $50 an ounce. In 2027, listen to this, $75 an ounce. And in 2030, $82 an ounce. Now I'm sitting here thinking to myself, wait a minute. Um, Historically, silver has never gotten above $50 an ounce. I mean, look at this. For the last 50 years, silver has never gotten above $50 an ounce. So, how are these folks legitimately forecasting silver to go above $50 an ounce? And they talk about a number of things about inflation and gold supporting and such. And okay, that's all well and good. And I don't disagree with any of those. I mean, it's kind of a shame in one sense that for us in the scrapping world to get more money for gold and silver and scrap, we need inflation to keep climbing. And that just means things are more expensive, which is the other side of the coin that we don't like, so that one's tough. Um, but then something became very clear to me when I looked at the sourcing material. The higher end estimates, the higher end forecast for silver were all coming from the people and the companies that make money selling all of us, you, me, silver. So the people that are trying to get us to invest in silver, whether it's paper silver or real silver, um, they're trying to justify these $70 and $80 an ounce prices because they want us to buy silver. Um, but when you pull it back and you start looking at what are the banks saying, what are the people that have no direct vested interest in silver, in the price of silver, then you see a little bit different story. So, for instance, in 2025, JP Morgan is saying the average will be $36 an ounce. ING is saying $29.50 an ounce. Saxo Bank is saying $40 an ounce, which is still a little bit high. So, here's the thing. Here's the takeaway for me, anyway, is that we have good reason to expect that the price of silver will increase in 2025 and moving forward. Will it hit that 25 and bust over 25? Man, I don't know. I think that's being pushed by the people that want us to buy a lot of silver. Um, so I wouldn't really pin my hopes on silver busting out over $50 an ounce, but it is going to climb. So if you have silver and you don't need to sell it right now, I'd hang on to it because you're probably going to do better in the future. Um, if you don't have silver or you're a stacker, you're trying to decide if you're going to keep buying, these prices aren't too bad. I mean, if we're expecting silver to keep climbing, then you're kind of in a reasonable buying range. If prices drop further here for a while, then look for those dips and buy those dips so that you will have some on hand to sell down the road if it does pick up to that higher number. And one of the things that I did in the past that was really valuable for me was when silver got here, I sold half of my silver position. Now I hold physical silver, and when it hit that almost $50 a mark, I was able to actually sell mine for $50 an ounce because where I was located and the buyer really needed silver, so they were willing to pay me that money. So I was able to sell half of my silver, which basically meant that all the rest of the silver that I owned was free because in selling it at $50 an ounce, I had made back all the money that I had spent accumulating the silver up to that point. So you kind of want to play those numbers if you can. When you hit those spikes, sell off some of your silver in the hopes that what you're actually doing is reducing the cost of what you paid, in a way, reducing the cost of what you paid for the silver that you're still holding on to so that sometime in the future you can get more money from that too. Now, here's an exercise that I thought would be interesting to go through as we were talking about silver here. And the exercise that I want to experiment with is what if instead of investing in silver, what if we were to invest in one of the companies that we have been talking about? So remember, a couple weeks ago, I showed you Verizon. And Verizon was offering a dividend, still is. That's about 6.2%. So what that means is that the dividend per share for Verizon is $2.72. So if you were to invest $1,000 here, let's do this and this. So if you were to invest $1,000 in Verizon at the current share price of $39.92, you would be able to purchase 25.05 shares. Now, depending upon who you use for your brokerage, that might be 25.05 something, partial shares. So, but 25.05. At the end of 2025, if you took all four, because Verizon pays quarterly, so if you took all four and not accounting for reinvesting of dividends, which would actually make this number higher, but at the end of the year, you would have earned $68.14. Now, if you reinvest your dividends, you'll actually make more because each quarter you'll take that money and buy more shares. So it actually will be a bit larger, but I'm trying to keep it somewhat simple. Let's say we take that same $1,000 and put it into silver. So here is silver price right now, 29.64. We're going to invest $1,000. That means we're going to be able to buy 34 ounces. Now it's 34 point something, but generally speaking, I don't like fractional silver and gold. The premiums are way too high. In reality, you're not going to be able to buy 34 ounces because we're talking about, a straight conversion to spot, and there's always going to be a premium involved. So you won't be able to necessarily buy 34 unless you're really lucky somewhere. But again, I'm just trying to keep this somewhat simple here. So let's say you get that 34 ounces. And if these forecasts hold true, if you believe that the average price for silver will be $36 an ounce next year, and you see that $36 an ounce and you sell there, you're going to be able to get $1,214.57. Or in other words, you'll have made a profit of $214 and some change. All right. Again, I'm not talking about how the premiums are going to affect that because, that's going to depend a lot on where you buy and how you buy. But the point here is that even if silver only achieves the average and you sell at the average, you have a good possibility of making $214. If, however, silver only makes that $29.50 that one of the banks is suggesting, you'll actually lose almost $5. So here's your risk analysis that you need to make. And I'm not saying what the right answer is. I'm just presenting this to you so that you can do your risk analysis and try to decide what makes the most sense for you. The risk analysis is if you buy Verizon stock, you have a very high probability of making $68. And you don't have to think anything more about it. You buy the stock, you hold on to it. Every quarter, they're going to pay you a dividend. And the chances of Verizon going out of business or reducing that dividend is very low because remember, Verizon was qualified in my analysis, meaning that for every year for the last 17 years, they have increased their dividends per share. So what that means is that you have a very high probability of earning that $68.14, and you don't have to do anything about it. It'll just sit there and earn that money. You'll probably earn more if you set it up for automatic reinvestment. If however, you buy silver, well, you might be able to make 2 to 3 times more on your investment, or you might lose money. And you've got to be paying attention to what's happening with the silver market so that you can sell it when you get that higher value. And in the meantime, that silver is just sitting there in your hands. It's not collecting any interest. It's just sitting on your shelf or your safe or wherever you put your physical silver, waiting for you to sell it. So I thought that would be a really interesting kind of way of looking at the difference between should you buy into a stock or should you invest in your silver? All right, well, let's see what you all have to say about these things. I'm going to hit the comment section here. I'm going to scroll back and see what kind of comments we've been having coming in because I'm really curious what you all think about what silver is doing and where things are going for you here. Let's see, we're going back here. By the way, I have 2 screens. I'm looking over here at this screen where I have the comments up. So, and Truck Fan says he's not doing very hot, so he's not going to be around for long. No worries, Truck Fan. Have a good one when you get out of here, man. And Happy New Year's to you. Let's see. Richard Holbert, welcome. Richard is saying that Boeing is having a very bad week. I'm thinking to wait a week or 3 to see if it drops their stock price and maybe buy some up. Okay. Yeah, I can take a look at Boeing at some point in the future if you want, Richard. I don't remember right off the top of my head. They're not in that edition. I don't remember right off the top of my head where Boeing was in my analysis, but if you want to shoot me an email, I can let you know if I find them as a qualified stock or not. Jose, welcome. Great to have you here. Cruiser Mac is in the house. Welcome, Cruiser. All right, let's see. Anfield Road is in the house. Great to have you here, Anfield. Let's see. JR Cat is talking about, wait a minute, I want to go back here. All right, so JR Cat is saying that they need the Hunt Brothers, and that's because they're buying and selling silver. Yeah, there's a lot of other people involved in the silver market. It's one of the big things, one of the big drivers from an industrial side on silver, solar panels. And because China produced so many solar panels and that market is kind of slowing a little bit, there's an issue there on what's happening with silver from an industrial side. And even though silver is a precious metal, the industrial applications for silver also drive a lot of its value moving forward. So we really need the industrial side of silver to hang in there. Yeah, Roger, he'd like to see that first $50 an ounce converted to today's dollars. Yeah, you know what? I'd have to, yeah, I mean, it's easy enough to do. There's calculators that you can throw on that to run that number for you. Carl, good morning. Welcome. Great to have you here. Carl is saying that he always buys in the dips and he holds the silver for the long run. Okay, very cool. I've done the same, Carl. I have silver that I've been holding and I'm just waiting for a nice big number, a 40 plus kind of number to sell off some of my silver. David has some silver that he can sell you for $50. I'm not going to buy it at $50 an ounce, man, but there may be people out there that will. Let's see, other silver comments going on here. Let's see. Uh, Silver in the hand is better than the money bush on Wall Street. Well, that's what we're talking about. That's that risk assessment, JR Cat. That's why I wanted to present those numbers to you, because it's a very common belief that a lot of people have, that they don't trust Wall Street. They're not into investing. And that's fine. I get it. If you're not into it, don't do it, because that's the best way to lose money. But you don't have to lose money on Wall Street if you're a little bit careful and you don't get greedy and you look at, like I do, the long term trend of what the companies are doing. It's not always true. There's always risk associated with buying stocks. And that's why each of us has to decide what we're going to do for our investment, based on our risk tolerance. I tend to consider myself a conservative investor. I don't buy very risky investments. And I always have a portion of my investment portfolio in physical gold and silver. Cruiser Mac is saying he's been buying silver lately, a few ounces at a time. Yeah, that's the way to do it. It really is. Um, you use one of these sites that you trust, or a local coin dealer, or a local um, pawn shop that you trust, and you just buy a few ounces as you have some spare cash, and let it build up. Um, that's absolutely a good way to do it. Homer's reluctant honesty. If you sell the silver, you can gain the profit if it rises but no longer have the silver. With Verizon, you can gain the dividend but continue to hold the asset. Absolutely, absolutely, Homer's honesty. Very, very good point that you bring up. With the stock, you will continue to gain that money until you sell it, right? So you're going to keep getting that dividend over and over and over again. And there are a lot of people out there that they live on the dividends, right? They don't sell their base investment, but they cash the dividend, and then they use that dividend for whatever other purposes that they want. With my investments, I let them ride, so I am letting them automatically reinvest whenever they pay out. So my position keeps growing in these companies that I am very comfortable with owning for the long haul. But that's a really good point, Omer. Really good point. Yeah, David, you got to be willing to ride that roller coaster. Silver was at 35 and now it's at 29. I mean, that roller coaster can be rough on folks. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm not a day trader, and I don't play that game. I monitor gold and silver prices for the sole purpose of, I have a sell point in that mid to high 40s that I'm going to sell a portion of my silver. And so that I just keep an eye on it for that reason. Um, but that roller coaster can really wear people out. Oh, okay. Roger ran the math. So that $50 way back when is now $66.50 when you account for inflation on the dollar. So very cool. That's a good number, Roger. I like that. Yeah, electronic scrapper refines his own silver and holds onto it, and that is very cool. I might experiment with that here in the next year or so, because to me it's fascinating, that process of extracting and refining gold and silver. Of course, if you're doing it as a hobby, that's great. If you're doing it as a business, now you have to take into account the cost of the chemicals, and what it's going to cost you to get rid of what you have left over at some point. The liquid waste product, when you need to get rid of that, um, and factor that into whether or not you're making any money. on it, but my sense, my gut tells me that if you're careful with what you're doing and you keep your costs reasonable, that over the long haul, you should be profitable doing that because for the most part, you can get your scrap pretty cheap. And so, in some cases, free. So, your cost is in the chemicals that are used to extract and refine, in some cases. Now, I know electronic scrapper does pay for materials. So, there's, that's another part of it. That's a whole nother set of math that goes into should you, what you should do with silver. Let's see who else is dealing in silver these days. All right, we are at the end of the comments on silver. That was a really good discussion on silver. Again, I'm not trying to present what you should do, what the right answer is, because like everything with scrapping and recycling, it's what works for you, your location, your risk assessment, your tolerance. And only you can decide what's right for you. All I'm trying to do is present some numbers to help you make those decisions in what can be right for you. So really need to pay attention to that. Oh, wait a minute. We just had another comment pop up here from David Carlisle. He says, last silver I bought was a couple years ago and I had a coupon code. So yeah, there's always sales going on. Like right now, you'll recall that. Um, let me call this up here real quick again. And it was right over here. So you'll recall with AppMex that they were having their end of year sale going on. So you always want to take a look at the sale prices that folks have out there. You might be able to get some really good deals, and generally speaking, the more you buy, the lower the premium is going to be. So it gets even better. So if you can buy a whole tube of rounds or eagles or what have you, you're going to pay less premium per ounce than if you're just buying 1 or 2 ounces. Always pay attention to the premiums. Those are very, very important. All right. Well, hey, that was a really good discussion on silver, and we look forward to seeing what happens in 2025. And I'm gonna save this broadcast so that I can go back and look a year from now. We can go back and take a look and see what actually happened. That'll be a lot of fun. So our safety note for the day is actually brought on by the season. And I purposely waited to this broadcast, which will be the last broadcast of 2024, because most people celebrate New Year's in some fashion, whereas the Christmas holidays tend to be very religion specific, whether it's Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or whatever your winter holiday is that you tend to celebrate. And so New Year's is one of those, it's not a religious holiday, it's the new year. And so everybody tends to celebrate New Year's. Now, of course, there are some nuances like the way the Chinese celebrate New Year's and stuff, because their calendar can be a little different than ours. But the bottom line is New Year's is a time of great celebration. So I wanted to talk about some safety issues surrounding the New Year's celebration. The obvious first one is alcohol and drinking and driving, just alcohol in general. A lot of people will stay up late. They'll want to see the ball drop, whether it's New York City or, in their own locale or something like that. The party that you go to may be going on for a few hours by the time you get there, and you'll have had at a minimum a few beers, maybe something stronger. So I would highly, highly encourage anybody who is going to a party, don't drink and drive. If at all possible, have a designated driver so that you can get back home safely. If the party is going to be at a hotel or something like that, make a hotel reservation and just, plan to stay there and have a good time. If it's a friend's house or a relative's house, maybe you'll be able to stay there. And when the party is over, just, relax and take it easy and be really, really careful. You know, you just don't want, there's no reason to risk a DUI. First of all, you can kill yourself or you can kill someone else. That's your extreme situation. Your lesser, but still really bad situations are when the law gets involved. You can lose your driver's license, you can lose your insurance, you can lose your car, you can have to go to court, you can have to pay restitution and fines, you can have to go to alcohol training courses. It just gets really expensive really fast. So a DUI can be a very expensive and bad thing to happen. So be very, very careful with your drinking and driving and your alcohol consumption. Remember that it can only take a couple of drinks before you are over the legal limit in a lot of states here in the United States. So it's really, really important that you be careful. The other thing that happens with drinking is people get stupid, whether it's drinking and driving or just becoming stupid. And then, oh my God, there's fireworks involved. So now we've lost our inhibitions. We're not thinking clearly and we're playing with fireworks. What a great combination to blow off a finger or ruin your hand or hurt somebody or start a fire. Any number of things that when you combine the stupidity of drinking, I'm not saying drinking is stupid, but the induced stupidity of drinking with fireworks, oh my God, that's a hell of a combination that can lead to really bad stuff. I remember years ago, we were at a party. Now it's just the neighbors across the street. So, it was relatively easy for us to stumble back to our house. Took us a little longer because we kept going up the street and down the street and up the street. But we eventually got home. Um, but they had a chimenea in the backyard. The chimenea is like a fire pit, but it encloses the fire and it has a chimney on top. And so you build the fire inside of there, and you can stand around the fire and depending upon how it's designed, you can stay warm or you just enjoy the beauty of fire. Well, this one lady that was there, she had a little bit too much, and she decided she was going to shove a whole box of fireworks in the chimney. I don't know how it is that we didn't kill somebody that night. It was a hell of a show. Um, and it was just insane with the sparklers and the fireworks and stuff shooting up through the chimney and out the opening. And, that was a classic example of how things can go bad when you have a little too much to drink and fireworks are involved. Now, as a lot of I don't drink anymore. Mrs. Shark came down with cancer several years ago, and she quit drinking to just help her body heal better. And I quit drinking to support her, and we just never picked it up again. So the good news is she's had two bouts of cancer, but for the last 5 years, she's been cancer free, and we've been alcohol free. It saved us a lot of money. I kind of make up for that in ice cream, but it's still cheaper than booze. um, oh, you know what, Homer? Here's a really good one that kind of like fireworks, but not really, and that is guns. Yeah, shooting guns off in the air at New Year's. Those bullets have to come down somewhere. I remember when I lived in Guam and Hawaii. This was a huge deal. There were news broadcasts for days in advance talking about how dangerous that is. How many people have died over the years because of the bullets that come down after they've been shot up in the air, because they're going to come down pretty much just as fast as they went up. and if they hit somebody, they're going to kill you. So really, really dangerous stuff there, man. I'm glad you brought that up. Um, let's see. Mike is saying that where he is around here, you get to know everyone that has a gun at New Year's. Every year, there's someone with bullets in their house or bodies. Yeah, yeah, that's a really bad thing. Um, you know, I got it. I'm really torn on the whole issue of guns because, I mean, I was in the Navy. I like guns. I don't currently own any weapons. I got nothing against weapon ownership. It's fine. I support the Second Amendment and what have you. But the problem is there's so many stupid people that have guns, and I'm talking about in the United States here. So we have a lot of stupid people with guns, and then stupid people do stupid things with guns. And that's where you have a really big problem. And now you take a stupid person, put a lot of alcohol in them and a gun, and it's just a really bad, bad combination. So, yeah, again, the holiday just amplifies the stupidity. Um, this is even funnier given what Mike said about the guns and how many people in his neighborhood that own guns that shoot them in the air. He's just going to go right outside uh, and just wait for the bullet to hit him. Oh man. Let's see. David said he lost all his guns in a terrible boating accident. Wow. I'm assuming you had the guns in your boat and your boat sunk or something like that. That's interesting. Let's see. E-Waste Joe is saying, okay, I'm not quite sure I follow that, but that's okay. Anyway, welcome to the show, Joe. Great to have you here. Plane Scrapper, great to have you here. Plane Scrapper is saying smoke bombs and fresh fallen snow. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that could be interesting. I could see as a kid where I would have tried to make, like these tunnel things and then shove the smoke bomb in and see if the smoke would come out at the various places. I could see where that could be a lot of fun, actually. Um, so here's the other thing that you need to be mindful of if you're a pet owner with the holidays. You got fireworks and you got guns, you got loud noises, and dogs especially, but generally speaking, dogs and cats can sometimes have a very bad reaction to the loud noise that comes from the fireworks. There are countless stories of dogs that have panicked, pets that have panicked, bolted from the house, got loose running around the neighborhood, and then struck by a car. Um, so if you know that your dog or cat tends to have a panic reaction to the loud noises, the explosions, there's a couple things you can do. You can get CBD for animals over the counter, and it's very effective. We give our dog CBD before thunderstorms and before major holidays where there's going to be fireworks because it really does calm her down. And, she'll just sort of sleep through it. Whereas when we forget to do that, she gets very, very upset, tries to crawl underneath the bed. She'll get stuck underneath the bed. And then I have to lift the bed and my wife has to pull her out. Or she'll go hide in one of the closets somewhere. And it's not fair to her to put her through that. So we've sort of settled on the CBD. They also have these things called thunder shirts. It wraps around the dog and it makes them feel like they're being hugged and held. It works for some dogs. It didn't really work for our dog. The CBD worked the best. And of course, be very, very careful about opening your doors. Now, of course, you have to let your dog out to do their business, which can be, the problem. But it's something that you need to be very mindful of if you're a pet owner when these seasons come around. So The holidays, enjoy the holiday, have fun. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but just remember that they can be dangerous. Think ahead of time what you're going to do and how you're going to handle it, and what how you're going to enjoy those holidays. Um, which brings me to the question here, and that is, what are your family traditions? Whether it's a long-time family tradition or one that you and your partner have adopted over the years, what are your New Year's celebration traditions? Now, when I was growing up, we always had to have lentil soup. I don't know why, but we always had to have lentil soup and herring. I don't know why. I don't know why, because man, pickled herring is an acquired taste. Let's put it that way. But it was just big in my family. Now, my family had a strong German ancestry, and then some of the my mom's sisters married Sicilians, and so we had this mix of Sicilian and German uh, background going on there. I think that had a lot to do with it. When I married Mrs. Shark, her family coming from the South, black eyed peas were the thing. And so Mrs. Shark had to try to figure out how to blend the black eyed peas of the Southern traditions with these uh, lentil soup dish things from my European traditions. But I was perfectly happy to tell her, yeah, no herring. We don't need to do the pickled herring at all. Trust me. So, what are your traditions? Let's see. What kind of traditions have folks brought up that are big with them? Everyday Solars, welcome. Great to have you here. Yeah, let's see. David Philly, cabbage soup. Yeah, that's an interesting one. All right, cabbage soup. Um, Mrs. Shark makes that for us here because, it's a good, healthy soup to have. And one of the things we love about being up here in the mountains is we actually get to enjoy having hot soup dishes during the winter. Down in Florida, that was a little bit iffy. Let's see. Watching Dick Clark. Yep, yep. Rocking New Year's Eve. Yeah, that was a big one. I don't know. Yeah, I think we would watch Dick Clark, and of course, watching the ball come down in Times Square. J.R. Cat, Black Eyed Peas, absolutely, and Hog Jaw. Yeah, you gotta have some sort of pork dish. That's yep. But Black Eyed Peas for sure. Uh, what other combinations do we have going on here? Board games till you drop. Interesting. It's funny. I hadn't thought about it, but when I was a kid growing up, the adults would put all the kids in one of the rooms. Usually, it was one of the bedrooms at one of the houses where we were at, and there would be Monopoly or Monopoly for the older kids to play, and then for the younger kids there was like Shoots and Ladders or something like that. But now I get it. They wanted us to play those games till we fell asleep, so that we weren't getting in their way while they were getting wasted. Uh, David Carlisle's Black Eyed Peas, cornbread, and pork chops. What a great combination, man. Making my mouth water. Let's see, we're doing Black Eyed Peas and pork something or other. I forget what Mrs. Shark said the pork something or other was going to be. So yeah, Mrs. Shark is planning Black Eyed Peas already. Oh, I know it's going to be. It's going to be a ham thing, some sort of ham dish. Let's see. Homer's Reluctant Honesty has had pork sauerkraut from my German side. Okay, black eyed peas from the Alabama side. All right. Ooh, what a great combination, though. Those go really well together. Yep. Yeah, after living in South Carolina, yeah, got to end up black eyed peas. I hear you, man. Lady, I hear you. Uh, I'm curious. So we've got some Brits here, and of course, Scrapping Irish is here. I'm really curious about the other side of the pond. What kind of New Year's tradition or celebration goes on over there, or if it's even a big deal over there? I'm really curious about that. Cruiser Max ringing in the new year, but he can't stay away. I hear you, man. I hear you. Yeah, Mrs. Shark and I, we don't stay up till midnight anymore. It doesn't happen. Those days are long over. Let's see. Got to watch Home Alone during Christmas. Okay, that's a good tradition to have. My wife and I go through the Christmas movies, starting about a week or two out from Christmas. It's every night we're watching another one of the Christmas movies because it's just not Christmas if you haven't watched Charlie Brown Christmas and the various Grinch movies, and of course Home Alone. Yeah, you got to watch the Christmas movies. And game nights, okay, and game nights. Got it. Scrapping on the fly is still recovering, so he's not sure what the hospital will be serving. Yeah, I don't know, man. Something tells me they probably don't take holiday menu into account. I have never heard of that game, Solars. Spoons? Um, yeah, I've never heard about that game. You know what? Maybe you can tell us more about it when we get over on Scrapping Irish's channel here after a little bit. Because yeah, I can't say I've ever heard of that one. Something tells me Wish Jill loves cornbread. Oh man. No laundry on New Year's because it's going to give you bad luck. Okay. Oh, bubble and squeak. Yeah, bubble and squeak on Boxing Day. Absolutely, I love it. Yeah, yeah. I used to love when I was working in underwater robotics and got to travel over to Europe and try all the different foods. We did a lot of business in the UK, so I was over in the UK a lot and really got to learn a lot and enjoy some of the more traditional foods over there. Oh man, okay, let's see. What else do we got going on here for the New Year's Day? Yeah, a lot of card playing and going to the pub for a party. Yeah, that's one of the advantages that a lot of the folks in the UK have, and Ireland and places like that over the United States is you tend to live in communities where you can walk to the pub and enjoy the camaraderie of your local neighborhood. We're not exactly set up that way here in the U.S. so much, so it's a little more challenging here in the U.S. To do that. Kevin Sturgis, New Zealand pork and lamb for us. Ooh, oh man, I love lamb. We just had lamb chops. That's what Mrs. Shark made for me for Christmas. Not lamb chops, lamb shanks. We just had lamb shanks for Christmas. So that was really good. Yeah. All right. All right. Yeah. Okay. So Bubba and Squeak is all the leftover veg and potatoes mashed up and fried into patties. Yeah. Yummy. Yummy. Oh, plain Scrapper knows what spoons is, and he knows that it can get rough. Okay, all right. Again, what I don't know, but maybe when we're over on Irish's channel, we can learn more about spoons and why it can get so vicious, very rough. All right, I'm looking forward to that. Hey, speaking of Irish's channel, we're really blasting through time here. So I tell you what, we're going to very quickly change the subject here. And we need to get over to talking about our industrial metal here today, um, because we haven't even touched on that yet. So let's get over here real quick and talk about aluminum, our industrial metal for today. So um, aluminum futures fell to 25.20 a ton in December. It's their lowest in 3 months. And it's in line with broad pressure from industrial metals. The dollar exchanges, yeah, strong dollar, the metals, go down. Plus, we've got uncertain demand. The latest data shows output from primary aluminum in China rose by 3.6%. So they're making more primary aluminum. But then it's not getting used as much. So that means you have more aluminum out there in the market. That's going to drive down the prices. Yeah. So bottom line here is don't look for aluminum to get going. A whole lot for us. You know, we're just not using up aluminum. The industry isn't using aluminum as fast as it's entering into the market. Now, the result is that primary aluminum countries can reduce the amount of aluminum that they're making. Of course, that hurts their economy. So they've got to balance how much aluminum they're pushing onto the market versus, keeping their people employed and their businesses running and such. We can see here that we've got a lot of gyration going on, but not a whole lot of real movement. There's no big trend up or down here in this later part of the year for aluminum. If we look at the 5-year in aluminum, we can see that we were, for a long time, we had been down here. That was after this real nice spike here in early 2022. But now we're down. We were down here for a long time. We've sort of climbed up a bit. We've got this peak up here of resistance. And the good news is that we see these troughs climbing up here. Let's zoom in here a little bit and take a look at this part. Oops, do that. Yeah, then let's take a look at that lower part, this later part here that we were just talking about. And we'll do this. So here was this relatively flat period for aluminum. And then we started this pattern of climbing and dropping and climbing out again. And now it's dropping again. But the good news is that these troughs here keep coming up. So we shouldn't see the prices get too low in the aluminum, but I'm not expecting a whole lot of great movement in aluminum. We're just, there's the 10-year look. There's nothing that suggests that anything will be driving aluminum prices to this kind of level here. So what does that mean for us as recyclers, scrappers and recyclers? Keep your aluminum moving. Don't hoard your aluminum. There's no reason to be hoarding it. If you are a metal artiste, use your aluminum to make things. You might be able to make more money making things with your aluminum that people are willing to pay a premium on. But there just isn't a whole lot to drive those aluminum prices up. A whole lot for us. So keep your aluminum moving. Use that for your cash flow, and just keep it going because there's no reason to really hold your aluminum hoping that the prices are going to come up. When you have a reasonable amount of aluminum that you can take to your scrap yard, take it in, sell it, make your money, build up some more aluminum, take it in, sell it. Just keep your aluminum moving as your cash flow metal. It's just a good way to do it. Now, I had planned on spending a little more time talking about this last subject here, but boy, we really spent a lot of time talking about silver and about the New Year's holidays, and that's all great. So I'll just throw this teaser out there as we get ready to head across the pond, and that is What are your plans for 2025? If you are running a small business, what is your business plan for 2025? And now that we're wrapping up 2024, do you have all your tax information together that you can give to your accountant to do your taxes? It sucks so bad. I am not looking forward to pulling all of these moving expenses and everything else together for my 2024 move. This is just going to be miserable, and my tax accountant is not going to like me at all. Well, then again, they might, because if they charge by the hour, they're going to really like me. Folks, it's been a great hour with you. I hope you have had a wonderful 2024. Enjoy your holidays. We are headed to the other side of the pond. If you have autoplay enabled, you will be redirected to Ireland as soon as I push the end broadcast button here. It has been great spending the end of 2024 with you. We're going to head across the pond over to Ireland and chat with Scrapping Irish. It's a very free-form discussion. You don't know who's coming up on the panel. You don't know what subjects are going to get discussed. I look forward to seeing everybody over in Ireland. Have an awesome 2025, everybody. We'll see